Welcome to Technically You, the podcast that unpacks the technology shaping our connected world.
Today, we're simplifying and talking about something that sounds straight out of a military playbook, the DMZ, or Demilitarized Zone. But in this case, it's all about network security.
Yeah, and before anyone starts picturing soldiers and barbed wire, think of it as a digital buffer zone between your private network and the wild west of the internet.
Exactly. Just like a physical DMZ separates two hostile forces, a network DMZ keeps your internal systems safely isolated while still allowing your web servers, email, or VPN gateways to interact with the public.
So, give us the castle analogy you love, because it really clicks for people.
Sure, picture your network like a castle. Inside the walls is your valuable data, payroll, databases, trade secrets. Outside, hackers, bots, and threats. You still need to trade with the outside world, your website, email, maybe an FTP server. But you don't want strangers walking straight into your vault.
So the DMZ is like an outer courtyard, a fortified area where visitors can safely interact without entering the castle itself.
Exactly. The DMZ sits between two firewalls, one facing the internet and one facing your internal network. That second firewall is your last line of defense. If attackers breach a DMZ server, they still have a wall to climb before reaching your sensitive systems.
So what actually goes into the DMZ?
Typically, web servers, mail servers, DNS, proxy servers, and VPN gateways. Anything that needs public access but shouldn't touch your internal network directly.
Okay, but let's get practical. Why is a DMZ so essential?
Because the internet is hostile 24/7. Every public-facing system gets scanned and probed constantly. A DMZ provides containment. If one system gets hacked, the damage stops there.
So it's like fire doors in a building. Isolate the fire so it doesn't spread.
Exactly. And beyond security, it's a compliance requirement in industries like finance, healthcare, and retail. PCI DSS, HIPAA, SOX, all expect segmentation between public and private systems.
And monitoring gets easier too, right?
Absolutely. Instead of watching your entire network, you focus on the key choke points. Internet to DMZ, DMZ to internal. That's where the action is.
So let's get a little more technical. How does a DMZ function day to day?
It's all about firewall rules and segmentation. Picture three zones: the internet, the DMZ, and your internal network. The firewalls act like bouncers, deciding what gets through. When someone visits your website, traffic passes through the external firewall to reach the web server in the DMZ. If that web server needs data, say from an internal database, it makes a controlled request through the internal firewall, which only allows very specific pre-approved connections.
So we're talking very granular control. One server, one port, one protocol.
Exactly. Principle of least privilege. And everything else is denied by default.
And outbound traffic from the DMZ?
Also controlled. You don't want a compromised DMZ server calling home to an attacker. Outbound rules and logging stop that.
Let's talk design options. I know there's more than one way to build a DMZ.
Right. There's single firewall DMZ'd, one firewall with three interfaces. Internet, DMZ, internal. Simple but riskier. One device controls everything. Dual firewall DMZ, two separate firewalls often from different vendors for layered defense. And finally, there's multiple DMZs. Some organizations separate public, partner, and extranet zones, each with its own rules.
And in the cloud?
Same principle, different tools. In AWS or Azure, you use security groups, network ACLs, and subnets instead of physical firewalls. The concept is identical: isolate and control.
Hold on, though. You're making this sound like magic, and in my experience, magic usually means really complicated setup process.
Oh yes, DMZs introduce complexity. More layers mean more configuration and more places for errors. Misconfigurations are the most common cause of DMZ failures.
Like what?
Firewall rules that are too broad, Allow any. I've seen that. It completely defeats the purpose. One breached web server and attackers walk straight in.
So documentation and regular audits are key.
Absolutely. Review firewall rules quarterly. Clean up old ones. Treat rules like code. Refactor often.
Let's do some rapid-fire best practices for DMZ security.
Okay, here we go. Use principle of least privilege. Only allow what's absolutely necessary. Defense in depth. Firewalls, IDS, WAFS, endpoint protection, monitoring. Aggressive patching, DMZ servers are prime targets. Network segmentation. Even within the DMZ. Multi-factor authentication for admin access. Comprehensive logging and centralized SIEM monitoring.
Nice, and what about testing?
Never skip it. Do vulnerability scans monthly, penetration testing annually, and simulate incidents so your team knows how to respond.
Earlier, you mentioned zero trust. Does that replace the DMZ?
Not replace, evolve. Zero trust says, never trust, always verify, even inside your own network. The DMZ still exists, but now it's part of a broader zero trust strategy with continuous authentication and microsegmentation.
And in the cloud?
Cloud-native DMZs use virtual segmentation, software-defined perimeters, and automation. You might never touch a physical firewall again, but the logic stays the same.
Where's this all heading in the next decade?
Well, I can't predict that far ahead, but in the coming years, we'll see AI-driven firewalls, intent-based networking, and automated threat response. Imagine a DMZ that detects anomalies and adjusts firewall rules in real time.
That sounds like science fiction. But I heard it's already happening in enterprise SOCs.
Exactly. And with quantum computing on the horizon, DMZ encryption will have to evolve too. Post-quantum cryptography is the next frontier.
Let's end with a couple of quick real stories. When DMZs work and when they fail.
Failures? Misconfigured firewalls, unpatched servers, missing monitoring. One company had a DMZ web server compromised and used as a spam bot for months. They never noticed outbound traffic spikes.
Ouch. Someone had to find a new job.
Yeah, now successes? A financial firm had its web server hacked, but because of a proper dual-firewall DMZ and tight monitoring, the breach stopped cold. No internal systems affected.
So when done right, the DMZ truly limits the blast radius.
Exactly. It doesn't make you invincible, but it buys you time, and time is everything in incident response.
All right, we've thrown a lot at our listeners today. Help me distill this down. What do people actually need to remember about DMZ beside the castle analogy?
Okay, DMZs are all about separation and control. A digital buffer between the chaos of the internet and your critical data. It's one of the oldest and most reliable security principles, and still essential, even in a zero-trust world.
So, whether you're a global enterprise or a small business, the message is the same. If you have systems on the internet, you need segmentation.
And documentation. Seriously, but document your DMZ.
That's good advice.
Thanks for listening to Technically You. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on for more quick dives into cybersecurity, networking, and the tech shaping tomorrow.
Until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and stay curious.